This is Unbridled Expression, and I'm your host, Kymberlee, della Luce. Every Wednesday, we talk about art, culture, creativity, and whatever else we're curious about. Thanks for listening. And if you like it, please do subscribe and share. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the new podcast. I am delighted to be here. I appreciate you being here, and we're just going to get right into it. I have a lot on my mind right now, and I bet you do too. So we can find a way to connect about what is on our minds. How about that? So I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote a couple of years ago. It really frames the texture of this episode. It's a ghazal, and it is called Calcified Naivete. Living inside the braided folds just for today, tangled roots whisper, I can't hear what they say. Memories are a splinter in the eye, promises broken become calcified naivete. Black swans slippery like mercury, haunting. A life lived well is not a parley. Water ceasing to hydrate what is crumbling, silt becomes an urn for ashes someday. Days are shorter as darkness encroaches, morning sweeter with precious days. As civilization collapses under its own weight, we desperately need you to disobey. So today, I thought we could have a little conversation about classism and bro culture. Two of my favorite things to rant about. Just ask my progeny. I mention this because last night we watched a movie called The Social Network, which is about how Facebook came to be. And it's really timely for me. I'm leaving Facebook by the end of this year. And I've been on there since almost the beginning. Not the beginning, but I've been on there for a long time. And really just thinking about, what it has brought me, and what have I brought through that medium? How, what's the reason for leaving? I'm leaving because I think it's toxic. Not the people that I've met on Facebook, but, well, maybe some of them, if we're honest. No, it's that it was created, apparently, from a place of hacking and a place of, stalking women and having vengeful feelings about women. Wow, Mark Zuckerberg, that's quite a story. But I don't think it's changed that much is the problem. There's still a lot of hacking, right? And there's a chilling line in the film where one of the characters, it's the guy that plays, it's Sean Parker. He says, we used to live in cities, and we used to live in cities and we used to live in the country. And in the future, we're going to live on the internet. And I just think that's an interesting thing to say. And it's interesting how much that's the vision that still exists out there for, humanity. A vision created from a bunch of broskies in college who were, sort of riding this wave, I don't know, of testosterone. I don't know. I don't know what their deal was, but the movie was very good, by the way. I recommend it, especially right now as Zuckerberg wants to head us into the metaverse. And we have all of these dudes saying, this is how it's going to be, and we're going to do this. And I find myself wondering about everyone else. and what they think and what I think. So here we are. So I'm leaving Facebook by the end of the year. I'm not going to miss it. I do hope to stay connected to people, but it isn't, I don't like the idea of my data being sold. I don't like the idea of someone who has all of this economic and social power, making decisions and assuming that it's a foregone conclusion, right? Assuming that, hey, yeah, man, I mean, like, that's what it's going to be like, dude, like, we're going to like just connect, over, I don't know what that voice is. I'm sure they don't speak like that. But the idea that we are just going to, lay down and become, I don't know what, minions of this world. And it doesn't feel like an invitation, right? It feels like we're being forced into something that I don't think is particularly healthy. So there you go. And along those lines, I want to talk a little bit about so there's a person that I have been inspired by in many ways. His name's Tim Ferriss, and he has a really famous podcast. I probably wouldn't even be doing this if I hadn't listened to his podcast a few times and been inspired in myriad ways. So not trying to throw Tim Ferriss under the bus, but I do want to say that there's a way of thinking in particularly, I would say it's a patriarchal way of thinking. It's a white male, cis-het privileged kind of point of view that, yeah, I mean, we've created these things and they're so good and, they're just going to help humanity. And there seems to be a real lack of awareness of what's actually happening for like everyone else. It's like Seinfeld says, a holiday called Festivus for the rest of us. I feel like that's kind of where I'm coming from, right? Like this podcast and my work is kind of about like, well, let's talk about the rest of us, the people who don't want to bowl over others or just stomp on, skulls to get where we want to go. And so yeah. So back to Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss on his website has a page of apps that have been really useful for him. And he talks about Uber and how, Uber has saved his, this is, by the way, this is not a direct quote, but it's something along the lines of, Uber has saved my life lots of times and, or saved my ass, I think is what he said. Uber's saved my ass a lot of times. And it's, like, why have a car when you can, just use Uber? Like, why have the insurance and the, the upkeep and, the car payment, when you can just do this? Wow. Why? Well, what about the Uber drivers, right? What about the people who need to do that to support their families, right? It seems like there's a real lack of awareness of, what's on the other end, right? Of these decisions, of these apps. Again, I once heard Tim Ferriss talk about how he was really fond of ice baths and how I think he used something like Instacart to have someone deliver a bathtub full of ice to him. And I don't know, that to me, that just feels like kind of gross. Like, yeah, I mean, I have the money and the power and the privilege to have things delivered to me, to have people cart me around. And, I mean, isn't it great for me? Like, dude, this is so good. And that's what it feels like has been happening. That's what's been kind of getting pumped out of Silicon Valley. And it just, it just doesn't sit right with me. So here I am talking about it. I wonder what you think about these various things that are made to make our lives easier, that are being created to, quote, make our lives easier, but don't seem to be made with an awareness of who's making these things and what's on the other side of our convenience, right? And it just feels really poignant to sort of like right now, this particular moment when we have like the great resignation happening, but we still have a lot of people that are really suffering in the world. We have people who are, struggling to make ends meet, and, the economy is constantly talked about, but the economy is the economy as we know it has been created for and by white men to serve them. And so everyone else serving them seems to be not a problem for them. I can see why. In another episode, in a future episode, I'm going to talk about donut economics, so you can look forward to that. But right now, I just want to stay kind of contained within this topic of how bro culture seems to be kind of, predicated on an idea that, look at us, we're making things so cool and convenient, but there's not a lot of accountability coming in. Like, one of my favorite people to follow is Robert Reich. I mean, Bernie Sanders for sure seems to get it. Robert Reich also seems to get it. And, he's busy holding Elon Musk and other billionaires accountable, or trying to, right? He's trying to stay connected to the idea that we need to be, expecting people to pay taxes, right? Like, billionaires need to pay taxes. Everyone needs to pay taxes, but the way that billionaires get away with not paying taxes is pretty problematic, I would say. Yeah, it's pretty problematic. Pretty problematic, wouldn't you say? Hey. Maybe I'll write a song like that. It's pretty problematic. Hey. Mostly when I get a microphone in front of my mouth, I just want to sing. So there you go. Somebody that really inspires me is Bell Hooks. She's a scholar and a writer, and she writes a lot about liberation from privilege and liberation from oppression. But she does it from a perspective of being really steeped in love and care. And that's what I hope to continue to talk about on this podcast and in my work in general. How do we create a better world that's steeped in care without throwing people under the bus? It's such a gross expression, isn't it? I need to think of a better one. Without demonizing other people, to keep their humanity and our humanity like in our front vision, and leave the other stuff behind, to how to not be naive about what's happening, to call it out, to create a new way of being, and to bring healing and some connectivity back into the world. I think that technology can be an excellent tool for our growth, for our connection, for sure for our convenience. I mean, there's nothing wrong with some innovation, but we have to be considering the whole system within that. So, back to Bell Hooks. In her book, All About Love, which I think is a great title, she talks about how much affirmations help her to stay connected to her spirit, to her soul. I'm not going to read you the whole passage. It is, however, on page 56, and I highly recommend reading the book. So she said that her favorite affirmation is, I'm breaking with old patterns and moving forward with my life. I'm breaking with old patterns and moving forward with my life. I like this affirmation because it's very transpersonal, right? When I say it, I can get reconnected with my future, with my dreams, with what I want to create in the world. But I also can hold a larger vision for humanity, right? And we all currently are breaking old patterns. It's happening everywhere, fortunately. But there's a lot, there's still this calcified, like I said, calcified naivete, this clinging to these old patterns, to these old systems that just really aren't serving us. So we have to be careful of denial and avoidance right now. There's so much, denying the truth that there are people suffering, and like detaching so much from that suffering that we don't work to make things better. And, for me personally, I've been, connecting with the part of me that wants to make things better. And that's okay, right? Like I try to do it without being too terribly dogmatic, but like sometimes you got to, hold on to your ideals, right? But not in a way that just, like ignores the problems, right? Like I've been trying to educate myself about business and marketing for the last, couple years really, and working with a business coach and, learning about how to take my work, my ideas out into the world in a bigger way and, make money doing it. And I've just never been very materialistic. I've never been oriented that way. And it shows. And I need to work on that, I've discovered. But along the way, again, I keep bumping into teachers who are just oblivious to what's going on for other people. There's a business coach that I'm not going to say his name because I think he's a decent dude and everything, but he's written some books, taking this little email class of his. And in today's lesson, he was talking about how I'm not going to talk about integrity because integrity is just something that we do. And people who don't have integrity, there's a place for people who don't live with integrity. It's called prison. I was like, wow, it's just not true. Right? Like there's a place for people who don't have integrity. It's called big business. It's called the government. It's called, politics, right? Like there are a lot of people who are not acting with integrity right now, and our planet is hurting because of it. Those people are not in prison. They are financially abundant, and it just, that kind of bullshit drives me crazy. And it's just, I'm working on like not letting it like ruffle my feathers too much, but also being aware, like, when I got a divorce, right, I left my marriage and it financially wasn't so great for me because we live in a world that supports male dominance. The legal system is not set up for caring and sharing. It just isn't. And I'm not going to drag all of that past into this moment, but I do want to say that, having a co-parent, having him just be so like oblivious to the fact that in order for me to move forward, I needed to have childcare, and his obstinate denial of that truth has been a consistent pain point in my life. And the obstinate denial of that truth is everywhere. It is everywhere. And even women, right? Women often don't really see that because you don't see it until you see it, right? And then you can't unsee it. And being a single mom for many years has really shown me that. So when we talk about breaking patterns, I think about this moment when my daughter was really young, like 5 or something. She and her friend were hitting themselves in the stomach. And just, like kids do these weird things. Just bam, bam, bam. One of them said, "When I hit myself in the stomach, it hurts." And I said, "Well, then don't do that." And then we all kind of just laughed. And it's been an ongoing joke that well, if that thing is hurting you, then don't do it. Gosh, wouldn't it be great if everything was that easy, that if you don't like economic disparity, then don't do that. Don't engage that way. But that's not how it works. And if we can't be honest about that, then things aren't going to change. Right? So I'm going to do another song. If we can't be honest about that, then things won't change. If we can't be honest about that, then things won't change. And that's true for so many things, including bro culture, including creating systems that are not supporting everyone, but are relying on the support of unpaid or almost unpaid labor. And the Great Resignation is cute. It's cute. It's good. But it's leaving out, the everyday workers who absolutely must work in order to pay their bills and who have, massive student loan debt. That would be me, massive student loan debt, by the way. So still working that out. But there's a really painful system in place, and denying the truth of that because some of us benefit from that and others don't is really a problem. So what was that affirmation? I think I'm going to leave. I think I'm going to stop there. So the affirmation that I think I'm going to end with, I'm going to say it again from bell hooks, is I'm breaking with old patterns and moving forward with my life. So let's be really clear, I guess, about what that means. I'm breaking with old patterns and moving forward with my life is going to mean sometimes cataclysmic changes in our own individual lives. I don't like it when people say, oh, yeah, I'm just leaving all these toxic people behind. It's just so dehumanizing. What if we say, I'm leaving behind my acceptance of people treating me poorly and of myself treating me poorly? So moving forward for me and breaking with old patterns means moving into my best life without people using me, right? Like women especially are really used, and we'll be talking more about that. Women are used all the time, especially mothers are just used as free labor and free emotional labor and free physical labor. It's not okay, right? Creating systems where we are all considered in the mix, where everyone is being appreciated and compensated fairly, takes a lot of work. It is taking a lot of work. It's going to continue to take a lot of work. And that work is not going to happen without accountability. It just isn't. It's also not going to happen without, kind of flipping over some tables sometimes. Like, no, I'm not going to participate in a conversation where I am being abused. I am not going to participate in a family dynamic where like women are in the kitchen making the food and men are out in the living room, watching their watching sports ball and, just smoking their cigars or whatever the hell men do. These are the most, I told you, I rant about this. And I rant about it because of how often I've seen it, and it's exhausting, There's an opportunity to fill up my world with people who want to make the world more livable for all of us. And that's what I'm doing. That's what this podcast is about. That's what my work is about. And I hope that you'll join me. I hope that we can all kind of bust apart the calcified naivete that we have and start, living fully and, connecting with one another over something besides likes on Facebook or, misery. Like, there's so much work to do. And it's okay. We can do it. We can do this work. It's fun. It can be fun. The current situation isn't fun, but we can leverage our creativity and the innovation that's created and really make something happen, right? I used to tell my kids, technology is a tool. Don't be a tool with technology. And that's what I have to say to you, Mark Zuckerberg, and to you, Tim Ferriss, to you, anyone who is part of a system that just feels fine with using technology to make life better for yourself on the backs of other people. I think it's time to call it out and to just not participate. So, yeah, there we go. Last week I said that I'm going to get on my soapbox every now and again. Seems like I did it again. It's fun. But you know what? Here's what I want. I want counterpoints if you've got them. I want to hear your thoughts about this. So if you're interested, please let me know on Twitter. Just at me, right? On Twitter, and let me know your thoughts. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Do you think the metaverse is awesome? What am I not seeing maybe, right? Or what do you agree with? I like discourse, and I like to hear other people's ideas. It's weird to be just sort of talking into a microphone and sharing my own ideas. But it's also kind of cool because it's just saying the things I want to say. But it's kind of, there's like you don't want to just be talking to yourself all day. So I'd love to hear your ideas. So at della Luce on Twitter. So that's at KD as in dog, as in divine, KDELLALUCE at della Luce on Twitter. Let me know. Until next week, I want you to know, I hope you are just having a great time as you deconstruct the patriarchy. I hope you're having a great time celebrating, heading into winter and kind of cozying into the darkness. Or if you're listening to this, a year from now, I hope whatever you're doing is pleasurable and bringing you joy, because that's really where it's at, right? Because the more joyful we are and the more pleasure that we're experiencing in our lives, the more connectivity, the more real we can be, and the more we can connect with, with our souls. We can be embodied and ensouled in life. And that's something that we own, right? Like, this is my body. That's your body. You came here, to like live in it and experience your senses. At least I did. So I hope you, wherever you are getting to do that right now. Yeah. So I look forward to next week, to talking to you. I look forward to hearing from you on Twitter. And until then.